Hello and welcome back to the Mansfield Town Shirts YouTube channel. Today it is time for our end of season review. It's been a little bit up and down, hasn't it? To say the least. We've had the highs of the early season and then the lows of the second half of the season. We'll go through all of that together. Let's get straight into the video. We start our season review then by looking at the fixtures when they were announced at the start of last season. I think we're all very excited to be playing on the Friday night away at Barnsley. I think to be the first team to play in the EFL, I think was an incredible feeling. The first home game was Burton Albion at home the following week, and then you've got local derby against Lincoln. We had also promoted with us at the time Stockport, so I think it was a good start. Again, looking to September, I think there was some of the easier fixtures we thought with Cambridge, Shrewsbury and Northampton before it got a little bit tougher with trips to Exeter and matches against Blackpool and Wigan, and then obviously Birmingham. So the key things, of course, you look out for is Boxing Day. We've got Peterborough away, which looked like a fantastic away trip. Very tough around New Year. Reading away, Bolton at home, Stockport away, then Lincoln, Wickham. There's some really tough fixtures there before we rounded out the season. Away at Birmingham, which we knew would be a tough game, and then at home to Exeter. I think at that point we were all hoping that whatever was going to be decided will be decided before the Stags needing points against those teams. So yeah, we started out with a bit of optimism on the fixture list. Excitement for the new season was ramped up even more when the club released 3 new kits, the graphics of which you can see here are from my website, mansfieldtownshirts.co.uk. But pretty straightforward. I guess the home kit wasn't a massive difference to the season before. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more blue on it, but overall it was a nice kit. And then you got the away kit, which was a little bit special, the white and green, and then you've got the all black third kit, which was used on a handful of occasions. 3 nice kits really. I think it really got the excitement ready for our first season in League One for a long time. Next step for the club was to move into pre-season, and you can see here in front of you the fixtures that we had. We had 2 comprehensive away wins at Retford and Hucknall. Retford was a one that we normally play every season. I believe it's been discussed in a press conference as well, Nigel Clough, that we'll be doing it again this season. Hucknall Town at their new ground, which was a nice ground to go to. Tick that one off the list. We beat them 6-0. We then went to Portugal and played Chelsea's under-21s. We beat them as well 2-1, following then a victory at home to Oxford, which was a good victory. I believe Keeler Dunn, I think, scored the winner there. We drew then away at Alfreton, which wasn't the greatest of games, to be perfectly honest. And then another Keeler Dunn goal at Grimsby away, the game that I went to last season in the pre-season. And then finally a comprehensive victory away at Matlock. Overall across those games, I think we were pretty optimistic. I think some really good results in there, some decent enough performances as well. Keeler Dunn papering over the cracks in a couple of those games, but as he did the season before. So yeah, I think there was again a lot of reason for optimism going into the season. Transfers then, as of match day 1, this doesn't include the players who'd already been released at that point. Ollie Clark was the only man out at that point as he left to join Swindon Town, which I was a bit disappointed about at the time. Did think we'd brought enough quality to cope without him, but it turned out we really needed him at the end of the season. But in terms of players in, we've got Keanu Bacchus, who had signed from Scotland, Australian international. A lot of hype around him. I know Bolton had been after him before, so he was a really solid signing. Fraser Blake Tracy joined us from Swindon. He was a left-sided full-back, stroke wing-back, stroke centre-back. Didn't know a lot about I hadn't seen a lot about him at the time, but I think we were all a little bit optimistic that he could fit nicely in as cover for the likes of Macca and Callum McDonald. We had Lee Gregory join us, which we'd been after for a while, at least the past 6 months. He was a fantastic signing, had been at the club before. Deji Oshalaja, we knew absolutely nothing about at the time, or certainly didn't know quite how good he was. He joined from Burton, and then Will Evans joined on a fee from Newport. So we paid a decent amount of money for Will Evans. He was their top goal scorer the season before. So I think all in all, we thought some great signings as of match day 1. There was more to come before the end of the window, but as we lined up against Barnsley on match day 1, that was who had come in and out. In each month then, I'm going to pick one particular game that stands out and highlight why. In August, there is only one way to start, and it's in match day 1. It's away at Barnsley, under the lights, at Oakwell, and we did the impossible. We did what none of us thought was possible when we went there, is that we turned over a team set for promotion following a successful season the year before. They had ex-Mansfield Town player Darrell Clark in charge for his first game, and an absolute screamer from Stephen Quinn set us up for a fantastic 2-1 win. I believe it's Gregory who got the other goal. Fantastic performance from the squad to get those 3 points on the first day of the season was unbelievable. The fans were incredible. There was a lot of us there on that night. It was a nice night as well. And yeah, it was really, Mansfield Town were in League One with a bang. We were top of the league after one game, and we were rocking. Before we move on, I want to say a little thank you to everybody who has subscribed recently or who has liked, watched and commented on the videos. It really does mean the world to see people enjoying the videos and see people watching them. So if you haven't already subscribed, just click the little button down the bottom, and also click the bell, which will notify you when future videos are released, and also click like on this video and comment. If you want to talk about how you found the season, what your favourite part of the season was, what the worst part of the season was, or if you agree with anything I've said in this video. So thank you very much. We weren't rocking for too long though. Somehow, and I still don't know how we did this, we lost to Bolton in the Carabao Cup first round. We had 3 penalties, 3 chances to win that penalty shootout, and we still managed to lose somehow. 3 players missed, and we were out. We didn't play too badly, but we were out. We then followed up by a 3-3 draw against Burton with a last-minute equaliser through the penalty spot, with Aidan Flint being fouled. I still don't think it was a penalty to this day, but we will take those, and it meant we were still unbeaten in the league. We then went to Rotherham on a Tuesday night in the Virtue EFL Papa John's stuffed crust pizza trophy, and we lost 2-0, and we weren't particularly very good. And then August carried on in a bit of a disappointing vein, 4 without a win, when we got absolutely battered by Lincoln, and it was bad. If you were there, it was bad. Christy Pym decided he didn't have arms anymore, and it was a real poor game. The draw with Stockport I thought was good. I think they could have won it near the end, but I think all in all we played well. So at that point we were 14th with 5 points, and our top scorer in the league was Lee Gregor with 2 goals. So all in all, a win, 2 draws, 1 defeat. I didn't think was necessarily a bad start. The main thing was we got that first win, and that was off our back straight away at Barnsley. Transfers at the end of the August window. See the addition there, Ben Waine at the bottom, on loan from Plymouth. Little did we know how little that would impact the season. But Davies Keeler-Dunn, one of the best players I've seen in my lifetime supporting the Stags in 26 years of going. Even longer, 27 years. It was disappointing to lose him to Barnsley. We lost him on the last day of the window as well, which really didn't... We had no time to do anything about that. From what I understand, we had a bid for Dan Crowley at Notts County, rejected, but that was a last-minute panic thing by the sounds of it. He went to Barnsley for a good amount of money. It certainly is still a good transfer for the Stags, but he left, and we never really replaced him. And Will Swan as well had left, so Ben Waine came in, and Evans obviously up front, and Gregory, and Will Swan was out. He went to Crawley, which I wasn't too bothered about. He hadn't really set the world alight really at the Stags. But yeah, Keeler-Dunn was obviously a massive miss, and it would prove to be that we missed him. We missed that little spark that he had. But let's see how September panned out. So then we're into match day 8, and we look at a 2-0 victory away at Northampton. Christy Pym with the penalty save. For me, that was the key game in the month. It could have gone either way. We sewed it up near the end. It was Aaron Lewis, I believe, who scored in the second half. We were great that day. It was a good performance. It was a brilliant performance from Pym after his errors at Lincoln. He really redeemed himself. And it was a real show that we could go away from home again. We could, more importantly, keep a clean sheet, and we could score goals. So, that's my my highlight of September was the victory away at Northampton. September then, and it doesn't get any better than this, does it? 3 wins out of 3 in the league, a defeat to Bradford in the Nobody Cares Cup. And we were 3rd with 17 points, which for the Stags was absolutely unthinkable. League top goal scorer was Lee Gregory for us, and it got us dreaming that there's something a little bit more there for the Stags than just surviving. Albeit we didn't know at that point that Cambridge and Shrewsbury would be eventually relegated, and that Northampton will also be right down there. But yeah, I think those three results really did make us take note that this could be a special season. Into October then, and my highlight of October was the draw with Birmingham. There were other results in there, certainly, but the draw with Birmingham, Lee Gregory's free kick was unbelievable. The atmosphere was a great atmosphere, lots of away fans, and we held our own against a squad that spent, I don't want to know how many times more than us, but they spent more on one player than we've spent in our entire 100-odd year history. So to hold them, and we should have won it. Will Evans was through on goal near the end and took a bad touch. That game should have been won. But it was incredible. It just showed to show that the heart and passion, desire in that Stag squad. Because Birmingham are a good side. They got players from the Bundesliga. They got Stansfield who played in the Premiership. They got all sorts. But we had a bit of Mansfield magic on that day, and the 1-1 draw was a fantastic result. And October continued to be another incredible month. The dropped points against Birmingham and then the defeat to Stevenage at home were straddled by victories away at Crawley. It was a brilliant result there. Ben Waine, I think, scored one of those goals. Blackpool at home was probably the best performance of the season, and I did debate picking that over the Birmingham draw. I just felt the Birmingham draw just showed what we could do, against a team far, far better than us. But Blackpool at home, I thought we were fantastic and could have won that by any number of goals. Alfie Kilgore came back, which is an incredible moment. But yeah, that was a top game. That was. Defeat at Stevenage was a bit disappointing. I think they scored by a free kick, if I remember rightly. Newcastle, which was my daughter's first game, which is very special in the Papa John's Trophy. And in the table, we were fourth with 24 points, which again, incredible position to be in, and some of the company we were up there with. And Lee Gregory had already scored 7 goals by the end of October, which was some feat. And we were riding on the crest of a wave, and we thought absolutely nothing could go wrong, but it did. It did start to go wrong a little bit, didn't it? Rearranged match day 5, so it was played in November. Away at then league leaders Wycombe, which you go, losing to the top team in the league is no bad thing, but it was just a manner in which we lost that. Again, I still don't know whether I blame Pim for this or not, but his arms didn't work again. He was lobbed in the last minute from a cross, come shot, come hit and hope, and it flew into the top corner in the 92nd, 93rd, whatever it was minute. It was the last minute. And they won the game, and that kind of summed up our luck at that point, was that it had gone from things going in and going our way to everything going against us, and that sort of carried on for the month, really. We did manage 2 wins in the month of November. They were both in the FA Cup, away at Curzon Ashton, 4-0 demolition there, and then victory away at League One Stevenage. So I still don't know how we beat Stevenage, because that first half of Stevenage was one of the worst performances I've ever seen as a Mansfield Town supporter. But we won in the second half thanks to Steve McLaughlin's goal. 3 defeats. I think we were unlucky at Wrexham. They scored from distance. We could have had a penalty early doors on Gregory. We missed sitters. Bristol Rovers, I guess that could have gone either way. And then Wycombe to lose by that fluke. So we ended up not picking a single point up in the league and dropped down from 4th down to 10th. With no goal scorers, Lee Gregory was still the top scorer with 7. But yeah, 3 1-0 defeats, and you felt any of those 3 could have gone another way, which kind of was the reason why I personally wasn't too worried in November, because any of those 3 games could have gone any other way, but we hoped we would turn it round in December, and it looked like we would. The next game after those 3 1-0 defeats, the next league game was match day 18 away at the Tough Sheet Stadium, brilliant name for a ground, away at Bolton Wanderers. Now, we were 1-0 up, thanks to the man there, Hiram Boateng. But then it went a little bit downhill. He got himself sent off needlessly for a second yellow card. And within 10 minutes, Bolton had scored 3 goals. And that was that. And we'd then lost 4 in a row. And that, just summed us up at that point, is that we were the masters of our own downfall, really. We had the game, it was there. They were booing their manager Ian Evatt, quite rightly. And it was theirs for us to lose. And unfortunately we did. That's literally what we did. We gave the game away. And it was 4 league defeats in a row at that point. And then Huddersfield came to the one call and made it 5 defeats in a row with a narrow defeat at home. 5 defeats in a row, I think, were worrying, albeit other than the Bolton game, they'd all been by 1, and we knew that there was other circumstances at play in that game. It was massive then that we went to Charlton and didn't lose. It was a game that I remember going to thinking, come on, let's just keep a clean sheet. I'll take the most boring 0-0 ever, and that's exactly what it was. It was a terrible game. Neither team looked like scoring, and we got a point, and we got a clean sheet, and it was huge at the time. It stopped the rot. We'd drawn against a good side. They weren't doing very well at the time, but at the end of the season, we know that they did do well in the end. And then we took that form into the next 2 games, especially with the win at Rotherham at home. Deji Oshalaja with the only goal of the game there. We got a bit lucky with a ricochet, the ball falling to him off the Rotherham defender. And then Boxing Day, probably one of the games of the season, which I would have loved to have picked ahead of the Bolton one, but I thought the Bolton one was just so calamitous that I should have included it. We absolutely battered Peterborough on Boxing Day. One of the best away performances, probably the best away performance of the season. And it was a superb victory by 3-0, and we were absolutely flying at that point. Brought a little bit back down to earth by Reading, albeit I don't think we deserved to lose that game. We just got caught on the break for their goal, and we never really recovered. We did equalise, but then they went up the other end and scored again. It was again a bit of a scrappy game, really. But we were 11th with 31 points. I think we were massively happy to be on our way towards the 50-point mark. We were more than halfway there, and Will Evans had scored 9 goals at that point in the league, so we were absolutely flying. It was that time of year again in January for us to beat Stockport away. It happened on New Year's Day last year. It happened again this year. What can I say? We like going to Edgeley Park. Brilliant performance from the Stags. Goal from Gregory. We missed a penalty in that game as well, if I remember rightly. But we won 2-1, and yeah, just again showed that we could still do it. We'd been on that really bad run. We turned it round. We then got pegged back against Reading, but we turned it round straight away to make it 3 wins out of 4 over Christmas. We've got the wins against Bolton and Stockport, which was 4 wins out of 5, over the Christmas period. And then it all went wrong. And I don't think any of us can put our finger on it, but the defeat to Wigan in the FA Cup was tepid. It was just really, really boring. We were terrible. They weren't great. Asgard was their best player, and then he left to go to Luton like the week after or whatever we played them. I'm sure he got both goals, but it was a terrible game, and we just weren't at it. Which after 4 wins out of 5, I thought we would have been, but we weren't. We were nowhere near. And then we lost in the last minute to Wycombe at home. I think Gareth McCleary scored in the last minute, or if it wasn't injury time, it was as close as damn it. And then we started to look at the fixtures, and we realised we'd got 4 of the bottom 5 in the next few games, and we turned up to Cambridge like we were picking a team of fans who'd won a competition. It was horrific, and we had Flint and Kilgore at the back, and that just was an experiment that didn't work. And I don't think they ever played together again, or if they did, I don't think they did play together again in a back 4. It was awful. We brought it back, and maybe could we have equalised? I don't know, but it was horrific. Then we lost at home to Crawley, which was a terrible game. We lost by 1-0. It was rubbish. That was both teams had been bottom of the table. We'd lost to them both, and we were still 12th with 37 points. Evans had bagged himself another goal, as had Gregory with another couple, and they were both level on 10, which was great to have them both in double figures, but we were on to bigger problems than that. That dip in form, though, was broken up by the transfer window, and we brought in 3 players during that transfer window. Matthew Craig on loan from Spurs, Jordan Rhodes on loan from Blackpool, and Caelan Vickers on loan from Brighton. So 2 Premier League loanees, Craig a midfielder, Rhodes a striker, and Vickers a bit of an attacking midfield winger. We let Tom Nichols go out on loan to Swindon, and we let James Gale go out on loan to Boston, albeit neither had really featured. Nichols had played in the Carabao Cup and the odd game here and there, but they hadn't really played. So those days went out. The 3 came in, and we were hoping that the 3 new players could turn that little bit of poor form around for us. I'll give you a bit of a clue. They couldn't. The first game in February was an away trip to bottom of the table Shrewsbury Town with new manager Gareth Ainsworth at the helm. Nsiala was sent off after sure it was Ntialu who got sent off, or it was Aaron Pierre. I can't remember. Might have been Aaron Pierre. Sent off for fouling Gregory. We were 1-0 up, and we were flying. We were playing well. We'd started to go long ball, and I liked it. They didn't know how to deal with it. We were a little bit more physical. We went a little bit longer ball, a bit more direct, and they had no idea how to deal with it. Their goalkeeper then went down injured. They regrouped, they changed formation, and we just absolutely fell to pieces. We stopped doing what we were doing well, and we started passing it around. We kept losing the ball. Pim got beat at his near post twice. And it was a mess. How we lost that game, being 1-0 up at half time against 10 men to the bottom of the table, was incredible, and still is probably my lowest point of the season. Was that game? It was horrific, and it was unfortunately a sign of things to come. If this is not one of the most depressing graphics to look at, I don't know what is. It was a bad month, February, wasn't it? The defeat to Shrewsbury. Then we lost at home to Northampton, a team who was scrapping down there. We got absolutely battered by Leyton Orient, who were the best team I'd seen this season. We got a point with Blackpool, but it absolutely should have been more. We were 3-1 to the good. Maris had a chance to make it 4-1, and he skied it from 7-8 yards out, whatever. And Blackpool went up the other end. They made some changes. They brought on Hamilton and Ashley Fletcher, and they scored 2 goals and could have nicked it at the end. Had we have lost that, I don't know where we'd have gone from there, but we drew. But then we got took apart by Lincoln at home. Wasn't necessarily a 3-0 game, but they just had more legs in the second half and tore us a new one in the last 5 minutes. And then we played Wrexham at home and lost there again. We just couldn't beat Wrexham anyway, can we? But we at home we just struggled. Didn't really get a grips to them. I think it was a Sunday, if I remember rightly. And yeah, we lost by the odd goal, but that put us 16th, 1 point from a possible 15 in the month, from possible 18, in the month, and it wasn't good enough, was it? Will Evans was our top scorer with 12, but yeah, we were really, really poor at that point, and again, I think we probably thought that it couldn't get any worse. It did for a little while, but it was brightened on match day 37 when a last-minute Deji Ashalaja goal meant we beat Barnsley by 2-1 at home. It was the pure jubilation. I've not felt anything like that for a while at the end of the game, the end of the 90 minutes. It was incredible, and we needed it. We'd had 3 draws in a row, but we hadn't won for such a long time. We hadn't won since New Year's Day or around New Year's Day, and it needed to happen, and the last-minute goal just topped it all off. So definitely my highlight of the month, and we absolutely needed it in March. We needed to pick me up because we were struggling big time. We talked about those 3 draws in March, and there they are. Burton Albion 1-1. Lucas Akins missed a 90th minute penalty to win that game. I don't know how I felt at the time. I felt like that win was never going to come. We then drew with Wigan at home, which was a good clean sheet. We needed a clean sheet. I'm sure it was our first clean sheet in something stupid like 14 match or whatever. It was something silly. I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it was bad. Stevenage draw 1-1 away from home. That was good. We'd signed Dom Dwyer at this point. You can see at the bottom, he'd been signed by this point, and he was making a difference, I felt, as well. Then came one of the worst performances of the season away at Exeter. We got beat 2-0. If you ever get a chance, listen to Andy Garner's interview after that game. We were honking the place out. We were awful. It didn't look like any of the players were interested in being there. But the reaction that came the following Saturday at home to Barnsley, where we won, and then to go away at Bristol Rovers and win there as well, was fantastic. And the 6 points were really, really needed. It put us up to 14th with 47 points. And Evans was our top scorer with 12 goals. And it put us in a much better position going into April, which we hoped would be a better month for the Stags. It absolutely wasn't, though, was it? It was horrific. Again, I've used that word so many times. It was awful. Apart from one game, which is this game, the penultimate game, at home to Peterborough, we won 4-2. And we were brilliant from the get-go. Disappointing that they scored 2 goals, but we could have had 6 or 7 that day. Admittedly, they probably could have had 3 or 4 as well, but we were superb. It was one of the best performances of the season, and there was no pressure because at that point we realised we were going to stay up. But why couldn't they have played like that before? Oh my life, it was stressful at that point. We thought we could still go down. You'll see the results in a minute. Were absolutely stinking the place out. But we beat Peterborough 4-2, and that was my sort of highlight that month by an absolute country mile. And this is why, folks. Look at April. Wow. That's not good, is it? In anyone's book. Charlton at home, lost. Huddersfield away, lost. Leyton Orient at home, lost. All by 1 goal, admittedly. But the Charlton game, I didn't feel like we were in that game. I know that, I think Leyton Orient was a game they scored a screamer, didn't they, in the second half. I don't know. Could Pim have saved it? Probably. Away at Huddersfield, we weren't that great. We never really looked like doing anything in that game. We scored near the end, but we didn't look like getting an equaliser. Then came the 3-3 at Rotherham, which was some game, that was. 2 late goals for the Stags to equalise. We then could have won it through Bacchus, but the fact that we didn't lose was a massive bonus because we definitely could have lost that very, very easily at 3-1 down. And then we thought we were on a bit of a turn. Could we keep survival by beating Reading on the Easter Monday? Absolutely no, we couldn't. We got battered 5-1 in one of the worst performances I've ever seen. We couldn't pass the ball. We gave the ball away so many times. Even players like Reed and Deji Oshilaja, who had been so good on the ball, had just forgot how to pass. And it went downhill quick. The defeat at Birmingham, as you can see from the photo that I took from Birmingham, we didn't expect to get anything. The fact that it was only 4, they could have had 8 if they'd have tried. They didn't really try. They were just trying to celebrate winning the title at a canter, as they should have done. Anything else less than that would have been a disgrace. But they did, and yeah, that was a nice day out for a new ground. But we didn't play particularly well. And then the Peterborough game that I spoke about. So we ended the month safe on 51 points, with Will Evans, who got top goal scorer as well. He'd got a couple of goals at Peterborough. So I think heading into May with only 1 game to go, we were optimistic that we were hopefully ending the season on a high after the victory at Peterborough. And the only game left was Exeter at home. And that was some game as well, wasn't it? 3-0, we were victorious. A brilliant performance. We had Mason in goal for Peterborough game. We then had Flinders in goal for this one. He kept a clean sheet. So good to keep a clean sheet. I just want to say the Exeter fans were incredible in that game, by the way. We will have a video ranking away fans this season, but Exeter were right up there. To win at home, 3 goals. Our home form's been rubbish this season, so that was a real big plus, and a clean sheet. So yeah, it was absolutely incredible, and that kind of ended the month as you would expect. The May review, there's only 1 game. We finished 17th with 54 points. Will Evans is top scorer, so I think we can all be delighted. I think with how the season's gone in terms of, if you look purely at the table and the points. If you look at the performances and the ease at which we go on bad runs, I think that's a worry. But I think the transfers this season will hopefully put pay to that happening again. So overall, I think it was a good season. And now we look at the Mansfield Town Shirt Season Awards. So we've got 3 awards, and we've got the Team of the Season to follow. Player of the Season was Deji. That's so he got every other award. He was also signing of the season by a country mile. Will Evans for me was a close second. I think he's, to get the goals he's got and been injured for such a period of time as well, I think his season has gone very much under the radar. Most improved player, I've gone for Bailey Cargill. I nearly went for Steve McLaughlin because he didn't have a lot of necessarily key moments last season, the promotion season. Cargill did play well, but with Brunton Flint playing at centre half, Bailey Cargill didn't always get a game as much as he would have liked. He played fullback, he was in and out of the team at fullback, but this season he's been one of our better players, certainly in my top 3 or 4. He had a bit of a blip, didn't they all, in the second half of the season, but most improved player for me was Bailey Cargill. So that brings me on to the Team of the Season. I don't want to put it in a 5 because I don't like playing the 5. Sorry, Nigel. So I've gone Pim in goal. I would have picked Mason, but he only played 1 game. Pim's not been great, and he's obviously left the club. But yeah, he wasn't great, but he's he played all the games. So what can I do? Jordan Bowery at right back. I know he played centre back and he's an absolute monster at centre back for us. But I had to have him in the team, but I want to play 4 at the back. So he's gone to right back. He's had a better season than Hewitt by a country mile. Deji Oshalaja and Bailey Cargill are the 2 centre-halves. And superb players. I think both had cracking seasons, as has Steve McLaughlin. To say we lost so many games, I don't know how with that defence, considering how good those 4 players have been this season. The midfield was a real struggle. Reid has not had a good season, but he's absolutely had a better season than Boateng and Lewis. Bacchus really came into his own towards the end of the season, I felt, and he also started the season well. So he gets in there alongside George Maris, or Giorgio Mauricio, as Alan Wilson would like to say. He plays in that centre of that midfield. And then up front, I kind of wanted to play 2 up front, but then I wanted to get Vickers in there. So other than playing him in a diamond, I've put him on the right with Evans on the left and Lee Gregory up front. So both of those 2, Evans and Gregory, getting into double figures for league goals. And Vickers lit up the one call in the few games that he played. A bit lightweight at times, but he was so skillful. Can't see us being able to sign him again, but if we do, then he'd be a fantastic signing. But that wraps up my team of the season. So not only does that wrap up the team of the season, that wraps up this video. Thank you very much if you have enjoyed watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and please like the video as well. Subscribers have gone up exponentially in the last few weeks, and it's incredible to see. And it really, really helps the channel if you like, comment and subscribe. It really does. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.